Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Thanks for your support on Patreon. Jerry was a race car driver, Spicher. Mike Kanellis wins and loses his first ever title in WWE. The OC get all the gold! And Cedric Alexander just jumped off the Titantron screen. Raw, you've gotten too good too fast, I wasn't ready! And it's reportedly all because Paul Heyman now has almost complete control of the show. Click the timestamps in the video description below to go straight to any of those stories. I'm Ollie Davis. Give us a subscribe, press the thumbs up button, and answer our question of the day in the comments. Who should beat Maria Kanellis for the 24/7 title? Because I'll be replying to people from out of nowhere. And click that eye above my head to give your rating of the show, where you can choose from Rawsome, Core, Average, Poor, and Rawful, as I review the 29th of July episode of Monday Night Raw. The show opened with an epic voiceover video package recapping the storied history of WWE's 24/7 title that's only been in existence 2 months, as if it was a 40s newsreel. It was a good gag that fed directly into the first match, a mixed tag of R-Truth and Carmella taking on Drake Maverick and Drake Maverick's wife, Renee Michelle. And out of all those people, Mike Kanellis ended the segment as champion, but as is the title's way, that reign didn't last long, because his real-life wife, Maria, threatened to, quote, kick him in the vagina attitude era, and pinned him to become the new champion, which was objectively kinky. Everyone thinks that says nothing about me. And because Maria has the protective force field of being pregnant, nobody can touch her. I mean, WWE would never ever do something as distasteful as a miscarriage angle again. Weirdly, the only challenger set up to Maria was Braun Strowman, who was seen breathing very heavily after her photo shoot, potentially foreshadowing Kanellis being his manager. Overall, it's a great new direction for the 24/7 title, as the Maverick-Truth feud has already dramatically peaked. WWE get a lot of flack for not being the best in the world at many parts of wrestling, but over the last few years, they've genuinely become the leading creative force in gauntlet match stipulations. Here it was used to get over everyone involved apart from Sami Zayn, with Rey Mysterio and Cesaro having the best in-ring action of the night with uppercuts, and, you guessed it, more uppercuts. Andrade looking great, dominating a fatigued Mysterio, and Ricochet beating Andrade in an exciting finale, meaning he'll face AJ Styles for the United States title at Summerfest, who himself was watching backstage dressed as Daniel Bryan. Then continuing the hot start to the show, the Revival defended their tag team titles against the OC, California, and the Usos, starring the recently arrested for DUI Jimmy Uso. But in a change from WWE's usual booking, this DUI wasn't rewarded with a tag title win, with Jimmy instead taking the losing fool from the OC, California, who became the new tag team champions. This match was actually really good, got a lot of time, and allowed the guys in there to steadily build its pacing. The Viking, don't mention the war experience! Raiders took on enhancement talent. Squash matches are an effective use of building the Raiders up, but the live crowd are worryingly quiet for them. That isn't the case for the Street Profits though, who've been protected in backstage promos since their main roster debut. Montez Ford is so charismatic, he even made me like Seth Rollins for a bit when they all said burn it down together. Even a moment of bliss didn't drag next. Despite Alexa's inconsistent heel-face allegiances in her promo, it was all to build Alexa's match against Becky Lynch later on, which itself was used to build her Summerfest match against Natalya, which also had a little side build of Becky versus Nikki Cross, a fantastic multi-layered weaving of storylines and characters that elevate the whole division rather than just the two people fighting for the title. Becky's match against Alexa was called off because Bliss injured her ankle, so Lynch beat Nikki instead, which was all a contrived plot for Bliss and Cross to beat her up together afterwards. Contrived because why not just double team her in the first place before taking 2 losses? Natalya chased them off, but then put Becky in the sharpshooter as a receipt for Lynch attacking her earlier in the day. Backstage, Natalya summed up why the women's division suddenly feels a lot more relevant, explaining that it's not about friendships, which is WWE's lazy, semi-misogynistic way of writing female characters. It's about professionalism. And even more awesomely, she challenged Becky to make it a submission match at Summerfest. After a recap of Dolph Ziggler superkicking Shawn Michaels on last week's SmackDown, look at SmackDown being all recapped on Raw like WWE actually cares about it. Ziggler came out to HBK's music as an effective heel troll, and also a fun reminder of one of Dolph's many forgotten gimmicks, where he'd come out as a different legend every week back in 2017 with that whole record scratch thing. Rollins beat him up everywhere to avenge Michaels, but it was all just a setup for Brock Lesnar's music to hit and, more shockingly, have him actually turn up. Lesnar then started an awesome beatdown of Rollins, somehow making the tired formula of loads of F5s feel new and dangerous, hitting multiple finishers on an upright chair, with Seth bleeding from his mouth to emulate internal bleeding Attitude Era. Crucially, the angle was given time to breathe, with paramedics coming down and stretchering Rollins backstage, going through multiple ad breaks, and making the WWE backstage area feel like an actual living, breathing environment. Roman Reigns went to check on his buddy. "Where were you 10 minutes ago?" and then got jumped by Samoa Joe and the OC. California. For Brock to pull Seth out an ambulance and F5 him onto the stretcher. And if that wasn't enough, Samoa Joe then called Reigns out for a fight in the closing segment, which started a mass brawl with Drew McIntyre, the Usos, the OC, California, and a crazed Cedric Alexander jumping from the top of the Titantron screen onto all of them. The babyfaces stood tall for the amazingly chaotic ending. Every segment felt like it meant something. Matches went through commercial breaks. The angles were well executed, paced and exciting. The drama built throughout the show, and they somehow did all of this with absolutely zero Baron Corbin and Shane McMahon. I'm very, very happy to say, because I sadly don't get to say this much at all, this week's Raw is a 5 out of 5 in awe. Laurie will have more on the backstage reason Raw was so good in a bit, but first, as a special treat for the SWAF Nation, if you visit WrestleCrate.co.uk and use the discount code WTTV, you'll get a free autograph bundle. WrestleCrate is a monthly mystery box full of loads of wrestling goodies, which has items from the biggest promotions in wrestling.
Thanks, Ollie. Cracking review there, champ. On with the news now, and the endless revolving door of talent between wrestling companies continues as Ring of Honor loses a couple more people. And this comes after ties were broken with the NWA recently, and they also lost producer Chris Resnick to WWE. One rather interesting one is Chris Sabin, one half of one of my favourite tag teams of all time, the Motor City Machine Guns. Now, Sabin went out injured with a torn ACL back in January when he was working for RoH, and had his contract expire shortly after that. So he moved on to Impact to work as a producer really rather briefly. But now he's up to something completely different. Cryptically tweeting, "Such a strange, almost nostalgic feeling it is to be in Orlando again." Following up with this snippet of a logo for the ruddy WWE Performance Center. Now, Ryan Satin over at Pro Wrestling Sheet has reported that Sabin is working as a guest trainer at the PC this week. And with his injury set to take somewhere between 8 to 12 months to recover from, could this be the start of a longer relationship with WWE as a trainer? I am hoping so, because the 8-time X Division champ must have loads of wisdom to impart. But there's also just that little bit of me that just wants to see him wrestle in a WWE ring. A boy can dream, right? Speaking of boys and dreams, remember Emma? You know what I'm talking about. Otherwise known as the far better ring name and real name Tenille Dashwood. Well, similarly to Sabin, Tenillina, it doesn't work, was also at Ring of Honor until an injury sidelined her from in-ring competition back in the fall of 2018. She has now returned to in-ring action, though, at a Black Label Pro show this Saturday, and then it was announced last night that she is signed with Impact. She's expected to debut for the company in August at tapings in Mexico City. Although to me, she definitely seemed like the sort of person who would have been on AEW's shopping list too, so this move by Impact may well have dashed their hopes of wood, which sounds a lot grosser than it is. Really, what is that? Dash wood? Horror. They didn't get Emma. But they did get Hung. They got Hangman Page, who may not have got the memo about the wins and losses mattering. Because he made an appearance on Busted Open Radio to chat all things AEW, but when asked if he could still get over in a loss to Chris Jericho at All Out, he said, "Yeah, I think so. My plan from the beginning has been to be the first champion, but I think I can get over in a loss." People want to watch and have characters that they can follow their character stories for a long time and relate to them in some type of way. I don't think someone has to win every single match to create a connection with the fans. My career is testament to that. I'm pretty sure I had a piss-poor win-loss record, even in Ring of Honor. I don't think that's the thing that necessarily gives you a connection with the fans. And this is why you're not an executive vice president, isn't it, Adam? You gotta toe the company line. You're a hangman. You should be good with ropes. Thankfully, though, he did clarify that's before Cody and the Bucks sent him the way of Adam Cole. Yes, wins and losses matter. I guess that sounds contradictory to what I was just saying. I think they matter in the confines of, if you lose this match, where do you go in terms of position on the card? But in connecting with the fans, I don't think wins and losses necessarily matter in that way. Somewhere where it does seem, though, that wins and losses have finally started mattering is on Raw. Just ask Drake Maverick. All those losses have turned him into an incel, basically. Now, Raw this week was actually really rather good, and we may have found out the reason why, because ahead of the show on Figure 4 Online, sneaky whisper-monger Dave Meltzer himself wrote, "We'll see if this is for the better or the worst, but tonight's Raw is the heaviest Paul Heyman-influenced show to date. I had that feeling when I heard about the Gauntlet match, since he's trying to make new stars, and the Gauntlet is really what created Kofi Kingston as a singles main eventer, and another Gauntlet helped Seth Rollins greatly. But it's pretty much confirmed the idea that they will attempt to make one or more stars in that match tonight. And make stars they did, with pretty much everyone in the Gauntlet match looking really great, except Sami Zayn. There was also a really cool title change with the Raw tag belt, and Cedric Alexander finally managed to look like not such a freaking dweeb with that awesome spot from the top of the Titantron and not smiling after being kicked in the face. If this is a sign of things to come in the Heyman era, you can sign me right up. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all of the names scrolling away beneath me for being our awesome pledge hammers on Patreon. We love you all dearly. Head on over to Screen Stalker to find out about a huge scandal at GTA 5 developer Rockstar, who reportedly haven't been paying their taxes at all. Like, ever. I've been El Fakador, and that was Lucha.